what is in there.
How can the Republican majority in this Congress explain to their constituents that trillions of dollars of new debt is good for our economy?
I first learned about the tactics and the phrase Operation Fast and Furious at the beginning of this year.
Happy Saturday evening, everybody. It's Jeff Wagner on the Conservative Voice and the Conservative Radio Network. Logic over emotion, fact over fiction, the home of independent conservative thought. I've been out a little bit once again traveling for work, but I'm here tonight and going to just have a little bit of a conversation with you. Everybody's been talking about President Obama's trip to Israel. I thought I'd do a little bit more than that and talk specifically about not only his trip, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but more importantly, what Israel is facing and the threat of Iran, and by extension, what we're facing as well. So there's a lot of talk out there about this visit. We know that he was heckled at a speech, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But what I thought I'd do is I'd rewind a little bit and just remind everybody of the issues that Barack Obama has introduced into the relationship that we have with Israel, and his treatment of Benjamin Netanyahu, and his basic, I guess, rebuttal of the standpoint of where we have been as a nation, the viewpoint that we've held as a nation, specifically regarding the borders of Israel, and the issues that he's caused with his support of really radical terrorists, whether you're talking about Morsi, you're talking about the downfall of Libya and Egypt, specifically the Arab Spring, and Barack Obama pulling the strings in the wrong way, not supporting the Iranians who were marching for freedom in 2009, stepping aside when we really had a chance to make a difference and impact a country that is tied to terrorism all over the globe. So I thought we'd just take a step back and listen to specifically what Barack Obama had to say regarding the borders in Israel.
What America and the international community can do is to state frankly what everyone knows. A lasting peace will involve two states for two peoples. Israel as a Jewish state and the homeland for the Jewish people, and the state of Palestine as the homeland for the Palestinian people, each state enjoying self-determination, mutual recognition, and peace. So while the core issues of the conflict must be negotiated, the basis of those negotiations is clear: a viable Palestine, a secure Israel. The United States believes that negotiations should result in two states with permanent Palestinian borders with Israel, Jordan, and Egypt, and permanent Israeli borders with Palestine. We believe the borders of Israel and Palestine should be based on the 1967 lines with mutually agreed swaps, so that secure and recognized borders are established for both states. The Palestinian people must have the right to govern themselves and reach their full potential in a sovereign and contiguous state. As for security, every state has the right to self-defense, and Israel must be able to defend itself, by itself, against any threat. Provisions must also be robust enough to prevent a resurgence of terrorism, to stop the infiltration of weapons, and to provide effective border security. The full and phased withdrawal of Israeli military forces should be coordinated with the assumption of Palestinian security responsibility in a sovereign, non-militarized state. And the duration of this transition period must be agreed, and the effectiveness of security arrangements must be demonstrated. These principles provide a foundation for negotiations.
Now, I mean, if you know anything of the history of Israel and the Palestinians, you know how naive this man is. Here's a man who, if you haven't seen some of the other news reports coming out of his visit, has no problem standing under a large banner when he spoke to the Palestinian people of Yasser Arafat, a known terrorist, the godfather of terrorism in the Palestinian-Israel relationship, stands under a large picture on this banner of him. And at the same time, when he gives a speech back here in the United States, he covers up any symbolism of religion, specifically Christianity. Have to cover up that cross. That cross is offensive. Can't talk in front of that cross. But I'll speak under a large photo on a banner of a terrorist. That's fine. But anyway, he's talking here about Israel should be accepting of the 1967 borders, which the United States had promised long ago that we would never ask them to do. These borders, that what he's calling for in today's world, he says in another sentence that Israel has a right to defend itself from any enemy, from any threat, but they would not be able to defend themselves. I mean, the country is the size of New Jersey as it is. And going to the 67 borders would make it, a half a day's hop on one leg to go across the border. So it's just an absolutely inconceivable position. He also has this moral equivalency fantasy regarding this situation. If you look at Arafat, I mean, his whole purpose was to divide, to keep the Palestinians poor and to keep them angry. He robbed them of hundreds of millions of dollars. His wife is still living off of that money. He, of course, is dead and burning. But in the meantime, President Barack Obama, he decides that there's a moral equivalency here, and the Palestinian people who are busy lobbing rockets into this country of Israel have a right to this land, and he calls the settlements. He calls for them to cease, and he calls for the complete withdrawal of the Israelis in their own country. Is it any wonder that our borders are completely open and porous, and we have illegal aliens, some of which are not such hard-working, pleasant individuals, in addition to terrorists linked to Al-Qaeda from other countries crossing over the border into our country? The man, in his moral equivalency and his New World Order ideals, is extremely dangerous, and in this case is the Israeli people are paying the price for it. And they will pay a larger price for it, I think, in the near future. We have Egypt and the Muslim Brotherhood, Morsi calling Israel Egypt's number one enemy shortly after he took office. We have him calling the Israelis descendants of apes and pigs. In the meantime, we have the president squawking about sequestration and all the terrible, tragic things that will happen to all of us in this country because of it. The very same day, he's canceling the White House tours. His new Secretary of State is promising $250 million to this terrorist. Not only that, but we decide we're going to send him 20 F-16s, 200 M1 tanks, right on the border of Israel. And, of course, all the political hacks that are on the lamestream media come and say, well, Israel is our ally. Israel has agreed to keep the peace with Israel. Or Egypt is our ally, and Egypt has agreed to keep the peace with Israel. And they say that we can trust them because the military will keep Morsi in check. But they fail to recognize that Morsi is systematically eliminating those individuals within the military that would keep him in check and replacing them with his cronies. You know, I think that Obama's visit sheds light on the lack of understanding that he really has in geopolitics. I think that if you're aware of the fact that he handpicked individuals and universities that he allowed, students that he allowed to come to his speech, he still did have one heckler, you'll realize that this is not a man who wants to hear people's opinions or beliefs. This is not a man who has the best interest of Israel or America, for that matter, at heart. This is a man who has an agenda. Pure and simple. This is a man who is consistently in campaign mode, and he still was, if you listen to his speech in Israel. He's on, yet again, an extended apology tour. He seems to want America to step aside and no longer be leading or leaders in the globe. He wants us to be basically followers and wants us to spread the wealth to other nations and to introduce this new world order. I think that people are starting to wise up. At least I hope they are. I like the way that, whether it's in the United States or in this example in Israel, every time he has somebody who disagrees with him, he, in a sense, looks down his nose arrogantly at them by saying, oh, that's okay, that's healthy, or that's, whatever. But he does it with a sense of almost like, just, hey, don't bother beating the hell out of this guy because, obviously he's not mentally stable. Otherwise, he wouldn't be heckling me. You can kind of hear the tone, or you kind of hear you can hear what I'm talking about. So I'm going to play this little clip and see if you can pick up exactly what I'm saying.
And given the ties between our countries, I believe your future is bound to ours.
Now he's holding his hand to his ear, laughing.
This is part of the lively debate that we talked about. This is good.
Laughing.
I have to say we actually arranged